Welcome to Tuesdays with Tilde. Today we've got a great lineup for you. We actually are doing 2 interviews today that we're going to go live with. The first one is with Pamela Plick, a financial planner and advisor who is known as the money mentor for women. And I met Pamela through Empowering a Billion Women 2020 group, and I really love the fact that she focuses on women and that, her passion is to empower and educate women on how to take control of their financial futures. There is a difference in how women have to now take a look at their finances, considering that, we live longer than most men, and a lot of us need to really be thinking about how to take that power back in our finances. So without further ado, Pamela, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here, Tilde.
So tell people a little bit of your story. I mean, how did you end up becoming a financial planner and advisor for women specifically?
Okay, well, my story is a lot like a lot of other women. Despite having a great job, I found myself divorced, and having a small child to raise. It was really important to me to be able to plan for my family's future, and learn everything I could about, retirement planning and making sure that we were taken care of financially. And so, as I immersed myself in this information, I it actually turned out to be another career. So, after studying about financial planning, studying about investments, how to invest, I actually became a certified financial planner in 2003. And I also want to say, I had a boss early in my career that was really instrumental too in helping me to kind of think it through. Because I was on a limited budget, back then, and I was not contributing to my company's 401k, even though they were matching.
Oh,
They
wow.
were matching to a certain percentage. And he said, you're just giving away free money. And that just really kind of resonated with me. And so that also, kind of sparked the interest in learning, educating. And then as I progressed in my career, I found a lot of women in the same situation that I was in terms of either not looking at their finances, or they became suddenly single due to divorce or widowhood. And I just made it my passion, my purpose, to really focus on women, because I do believe that we are really underserved
Yeah.
in the financial community.
So what were some of your biggest lessons that you learned during, that time during your divorce? Because I know some of the lessons for me were I had gotten married at such a young age at 23, and my ex-husband was 20, and so for us, we had commingled everything. We had commingled all of our finances, and looking back on that, I would certainly not do that again. So, to where you keep your individual accounts, but you also have a commingled account, let's say for your home or mortgage and things like that. So that for me was my biggest lesson that I don't think I'll ever do again. What were some of your lessons that you learned, during that difficult time?
Well, during that time, I actually got married young as well, but honestly, we didn't have that much when we got divorced, so we
Mhm.
didn't have a problem, problem with that. And my ex-husband was very gracious in terms of, I said, leave the money, leave the car, leave everything we have, if and he did, So, but what I did learn was the importance of setting up, having a foundation, a financial foundation. We'll talk more about it as we get more into the interview, but I mean, making sure that, you have the emergency fund in place, making sure that you have the appropriate insurance in place, that your debt is under control,
Yeah.
because it's really not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep, in terms of building wealth. So I think that was important too. And also, the other thing is making sure that it's important. Usually, there's one person in the family that handles the finances,
Mm-hmm.
but it is important that both people be able to um, understand, what's going on. Should there be an emergency? Should we, hopefully not a divorce, but any other type of a medical emergency, either one should be able to step in and take over the family finances.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think are some unique challenges that women face, in addressing their financial future nowadays?
Sure, there are a couple of challenges that we face. First of all, unpredictable life events. Stuff
Mm-hmm.
happens, right? The economic realities, as well as some retirement hurdles. On average, women will be on their own for at least one third of their adult life. So it's important that we empower ourselves, to make sure that we understand what we need to do to plan for our financial futures. Now, in terms of unpredictable life events, we talked about divorce. 50% of marriages still end in divorce, unfortunately. Also, or death is another one. 35% of marriages end in death, and usually it's the husband that dies because we typically marry men usually that are a little bit older than us, and so we end up being widows. And the average age for widowhood is 52. So and in addition, we on average we live 7 years longer than men. So with those, with all of that, we have some challenges when it comes to retirement planning. We live longer, as I mentioned. A lot of times we're out of the workforce for a period of time. Usually we're the caregivers, which means we're not contributing to our retirement plans. And we tend to be more conservative
Yeah.
about investing. So all of that, not that, those are some challenges, but they are overcomable. So, or can be overcome.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things for us to overcome, but at the same time, when women are making almost 90% of all purchasing decisions, how do you think that plays into you know a financial mindset that we have about do we even realize the power that we have, or the power of the purse, if you will, right now, at that 90 percentile purchasing power that women have right now in the US?
I think more so now than, in the past, women are realizing the power that we do
Mm-hmm.
have. The majority of wealth is held in this country by women. Because of with the changeover of wealth, it's women who are inheriting, a lot of this money, and so a lot of women are the CFOs of the family. So
Yeah.
so I think we do realize it, but there are still women that I come in contact with that really need to be empowered. They have some of those old limiting beliefs about money that they really need to overcome.
Yeah. And,
So, yeah.
and that's what that's why I asked you to be on the show, because when at Womanars, at least my goal is to partner with people like you and instructors like you and expert trainers like yourself, because you're not only teaching people how to do their finances, but you're addressing those mindsets and limiting beliefs that I think hold a lot of us back, and maybe something that we saw our parents go through, and don't realize how that has affected us and the way that we see money and the way that we manage money. What has been your experience in dealing specifically with women and the mindsets that maybe, that are women specific addressing money?
Right. Well, I actually wrote a blog post recently about it was entitled "Why Smart People Sometimes Make Poor Financial Decisions."
Yeah.
If you think about it, we've all purchased something, just on the fly of the moment. It was a spur of the moment. Might have been a pair of shoes, a dress, whatever it might. Like you're looking at it. Oh, I really like that. Those are cute. I deserve this. And then you get home and you realize that you really didn't like what you bought or you didn't need it, right? So sometimes we let our emotions interfere with
Mm-hmm.
making smart decisions, and I do see that, a lot with women. And you have to take the emotion out of the financial decision making. And a lot of it also goes back to our beliefs and what we heard growing up. What was discussed in your home? Did you hear, when you heard your parents talking about money, what was the conversation? Was it about lack? Well, you know what, we can't afford that. We don't have enough money for that. Or even, what were some of the things that family members said about you? Were you the child that money always burned a hole in your pocket? And so, if that was what was kind of drilled in you, boy, Tilde, you just can't seem to keep money. It just burns a hole in your pocket.
Yeah.
That kind of stays with you, imprints on you and stays with you through adulthood and kind of affects how you manage your money as an adult. But there's actually a term called behavioral finance.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is, sometimes we're wired this way, but at least if we know it, we recognize it, and so as we're making these decisions, we can kind of step back and say, okay, am I making this financial decision based on emotion, or am I actually making it based on the facts?
Right.
you know and so it kind of helps you kind of step back and take that emotion out of it.
Right. I just want to take a little bit of time, since we are streaming live on Facebook, just to say hello to everybody, and that we are live interviewing Pamela Plick, who is a financial planner and advisor for women specifically. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we will get to them as soon as we see them coming through. Let me just check, or will you check that, Dave? And just so that we can let everybody know that we're watching you, we're listening. So, but this is part of the whole thing for me and Womanars in providing access to people like Pamela, to all of you who you normally wouldn't have access to. So, and this gives you a great opportunity to ask her any sort of questions that you might have, and also just to connect with her and maybe ping her a little bit later about something that you might be going through yourself with your finances. So, but anywho, we'll get back to the interview. And so let's go back to the limiting beliefs, because I think this is really important, not only for women and their finances, but women in their life as a whole, period. What are some, you say your advice to women is to take the emotion out of it, Pamela, but how do they do that? I mean, if I grew up, like you said, with my parents saying, oh, Tilde, you got a hole in your pocket, you burn through money. How does that manifest itself now as an adult? And what are some things that I can ask myself, or what's the mind shift that has to happen, or how do I change that voice in my head to help me to make better decisions for myself?
Okay. Sure. A couple things. First of all, I think it's important that you recognize it, you
Hmm.
know, um, because if you don't realize that you need help or something needs to change, then nothing will, right? So, being able to recognize it. Also, educating yourself is really another way. There's so many programs out there. There's a lot of free information, such as blogs or financial websites that women can read, read articles on. And there's so many books as well. But I think knowledge is power,
Right.
or what you do with that knowledge is power. So first of all, recognizing that you need help, and then educating yourself on what is the correct way to handle the financial situation. And then if you still need some support, that's where you reach out to a financial planner, and a certified financial planner can help someone with that mindset, also help them create a financial plan to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And it's their job to take that emotion out of it,
Hmm.
I know one of the things that I really appreciate my from my clients, the comments that one of my clients said, you really help me think things through because you need to understand what the pros and cons are, of
Yeah.
each decision. And then one other thing in terms of limiting beliefs, and also it goes back to what are your values,
Mm.
that's important too because if one of your
Hmm.
values claim one of your values is to be is financial security, yet you're amassing this debt, you're every month you're buying stuff or putting stuff on credit card, that's kind of in conflict,
Right.
with your values. So that's one of the most common
Hmm.
examples, and unfortunately, we have goals, but we may not be able to achieve all of them at the same time. It's about prioritizing,
Right.
and what's important to you. So,
Right. So you and I are part of the She Leaders Book Club on Facebook. And for those of you that don't know what that is it's a private book club that Joni Young started. And we're going through the book Think and Grow Rich for Women. And so I'm wondering, Pamela, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of the things that you learned as we read through that book, because I think we had so many aha moments and so many things in common, as a group as we went and read through that book. That addressed a lot of the limiting beliefs and fears and things like that. So what were just a couple of things that really stood out from you as you read through Sharon Lecter's book?
I think the one thing that really stood out for me, and again, this is finance related, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, women don't want to talk about it. A lot of people don't want to talk about money. It
Right.
kind of scares them. But talking about self care and taking
Mm.
care of yourself, taking care of yourself financially is part of self care. A lot of times we think of health, psychologically and that kind of thing, but you don't think about the financial part of it,
Yeah.
as being is also taking care of yourself. So to me, that was very important. And then also looking at, when we talked about the beliefs, the money beliefs,
Right.
how does that manifest? Like you said, how do I know, a belief that I'm holding from childhood? How is that,
Yeah.
manifesting in my financial life as an adult? So looking at that and how can you overcome it?
Yeah.
So those were things that I thought were great that were actually addressed
Mm-hmm.
in the book.
Yeah, I think for me it was the list of fears
Yeah.
and being able to pinpoint, okay, which one of those is me and which one of those resonates with me. And you're right. I mean, how my childhood past affected that, and to be able to acknowledge it, and then to figure out ways that, or to see ways that I was playing into that fear, and figuring out ways then on how to pivot, and
Hmm.
do that little shift in my own head, and kind of looking from the outside in now on when I make financial decisions, and are they fear based or are they abundance based. So that for me was a huge aha moment, I think, during the book. And for those of you, again, the book is Think and Grow Rich for Women, and it's by Sharon Lechter. Highly recommend it. So, what is your advice for women, if they don't even know where to start right now with their finances? What would you recommend to them?
I would recommend that they start educating themselves. As I mentioned earlier, there's so many ways to do that. Just start reading financial information. You can even do that daily. There's so much information online. Now you can get overwhelmed,
Right.
but pick, a financial website, maybe that focuses on women,
Hmm.
specializes in women, and start reading some of the articles, um, and educating yourself. Also, taking workshops, financial workshops, or financial classes. That's a great way, to increase your knowledge and to help you become more confident
Right.
in building that financial wisdom and wealth.
So, because one of the main reasons I created Womanars was to make it fun and easy for women to find the information that they were searching for, right? I mean, going through
Right.
my own divorce, I found it really difficult to find the information that I needed at that moment in time, like a financial advisor, like a good attorney, what are the questions that I need to be asking, to ensure that I get somebody that I can trust. And so it was just really frustrating and overwhelming to go online to try and find something. And I was really fortunate in that I had friends who were experts, in their respective fields. I had attorneys, I had financial
Hmm.
advisors, I had all those things. So all I had to do was swallow my pride, pick up the phone and call them. Now, for women that can't do that, that's why I created Womanars, right, is to help women
Right.
like that. So what resources in particular would you recommend to women, and who are some of your go-to people that you follow online, that are your friends and people that you can trust?
A couple. What I would do recommend to them also is to consult.
Hmm.
If you know that, hey, my financial situation, I can't seem to get out of debt, or I can't seem to create a budget,
Yeah.
or build wealth, you may need some professional help. So,
Hmm.
consult with a financial planner, and I'm a big advocate that everyone deserves competent and ethical advice. So you really
Hmm.
want to make sure that you're working with someone that is that has your best interest,
Hmm.
at heart. Number one, if you have if you're employed and you have a 401k, you want to review those statements. The your company is required to have a department to be able to help you with that.
Hmm.
So that's another free option. There are, a few websites. Like I mentioned, I actually write a weekly blog, that covers a financial, issue each week.
Uh-huh.
That's free, free to women, if they're interested in that. Um, Daily Worth is another website, that it actually focuses on women, that they write, they have articles related
Right.
to women in finance. Investopedia, I'm a featured expert on Investopedia, very well respected financial website. You can actually, what's really cool about this is you can actually go online, go onto the website. If you have a financial question, type it in. And there are experts there that, if it's within their area of expertise, they will answer your question.
Wow.
So that's free, so that those are things that, that I would recommend that they start with.
Yeah, that's great because I received the Daily Worth
Hmm.
newsletter, and I mean, I've seen them since the inception and how they've grown, and the quality of information that they put out is really really good. And I've taken a peek at Investopedia as well, and both of them, you're right. I mean, are high quality resources for women that make it
Hmm.
really easy for you just to look at the website and find sort of whatever it is that you're searching for, as far as in whether you're trying to get out of debt, or looking to make your first investment, investment advice. I think it's really really helpful, both of those.
Right, and even looking
Excuse
for
me.
um, a low interest credit card.
Yeah.
Another website, I think that's really great, especially for millennials,
Yeah.
is called Nerd Wallet. And I'm also a featured
Excuse me.
advisor on Nerd Wallet as well. But you can go in and type a question, ask a question, and the advisors will respond. But if you're looking for research, you're doing research on the best online CD rate, or the lowest interest rate on a credit card. There's a
Yeah.
lot of good information on that as well.
Awesome. So what are some red flags that they may not have, a financial planner or advisor that is, seeking out, working for their best interests or have their best interests at heart?
Well, let me just tell you the things that you want to kind of look for, or make sure that you understand. I think one thing is you need to understand what is your financial advisor's specialty? What
Mm.
are their expertise? What is their expertise in? Um, and are you looking for just investment advice, or are you looking for a more comprehensive approach to your finances? That's important because typically, if you're going to go to, for example, a full service brokerage firm where they charge a commission, they're really probably not going to go into a complete financial plan. They're really going to just make an investment recommendation. But if you're needing something more comprehensive, you probably want to work with a certified financial planner. So understanding, what their specialty is, and also what type of advice you can expect to receive.
Mm-hmm.
Understand how they get paid. That's important, because again, as a someone that works for a brokerage firm, an investment advisor, they pretty much get paid on commission. So
Right.
it's once you make the investment, they receive a portion of that, as a commission,
Mm-hmm.
versus a registered investment advisor, which is what I am through the state of California. um, we are fiduciaries, which means we're legally required to do what's in our client's best interest. And so, as a certified financial planner, you can have a planner that is fee only or fee based. So, understanding how they get paid, okay, and what the fees are,
Right.
um, and the qualifications. I think that's important too. And as a certified financial planner, I think that's what really kind of sets us apart from the competition, because in addition to the education requirement, there's also experience requirement. There's an ethics requirement. We have to go through continuing education. So that's separate, versus someone that has a securities license that is allowed to just sell
Right.
things. So really understanding, who it is that you're working with and
Mhm.
what you can expect, from them in
Right.
terms of your financial needs.
Well, and I think also for me a red flag. I know you probably can't say what a red flag is, but I can. I think
Yes.
for I think for me a red flag in a financial advisor or a financial planner is somebody who won't listen. Who is telling you what you need versus you telling them what your goals are and how whether you're a risk taker, what level of risk you're willing to take with your money in investments, and basically somebody that just comes to you with a plan without really listening to you and what your needs are and whether or not they're meeting those needs. That to me is a huge red flag, and also the references. If they're not willing to provide references, then or to show you how they've been able to manage other people's money, obviously without telling you who they were or anything like that. But I mean, I think a track record speaks for itself as well.
Well, let me just talk a little bit about the track record because
Mm-hmm.
every client is different.
Mm-hmm.
Every client has their own personal rate of return
Right.
based on their risk tolerance and time horizon. So it's
Mm-hmm.
probably not appropriate for them to say, okay, well, I've done this in terms of investments. That's a red flag. If somebody says, well, I can get you this return, no, nobody can guarantee that.
Right.
But they can tell you based on your risk tolerance, your time horizon, this is hypothetically what you can expect, because it's really based on your goals.
Right.
That's the one thing that's important to me that people understand. I get people that come, and they say, okay, well, I have this amount of money I want to invest. And I'm like, okay, well, let's step back for a minute. Why are you investing?
Mm-hmm.
What is your goal? And that's where it starts.
Right.
Investment planning is one piece of the financial planning process.
Right.
Although it's an important piece, right? Because it's going to get you to where you want to be or not, but it's still one piece. So you need to go through the process, of understanding what are your goals? Are they realistic?
Right.
Can you get there? Before someone can put an investment plan in place for you,
Mm-hmm.
and in order for them to do that, they need to understand you.
Right.
That's the thing I don't understand. How can you create or make an investment recommendation if they don't understand you?
Right.
And what your priorities are.
Right. And I think another thing is, just giving people options,
Yes.
and allowing them to see the different options available to them with the goals that they want to set for themselves. So I think all those things. I think one of the biggest things that I've heard women complain about is, financial advisors, financial planners, who don't listen and who just tell them what to do instead of laying out options for them and giving them the pros and cons of each and then allowing them to decide for themselves.
Right. I think that's important too. Now you are paying for advice,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So bottom line, it's not cheap. So, if you're not willing to take advice, then you really shouldn't be working with a professional.
Right.
But you're right, because that's important to me with my clients. I'm going to tell them we're going to sit down and talk about it's collaborative. We're
Mm-hmm.
we're partners. This is what I tell them. We are partners in this. The end of the day, it's your money, but we are partners. And so they do need to understand the pros and cons of maybe being too conservative or being wanting to take more risks than they really need to.
Right.
So there are pros and cons with each.
So, what is your philosophy? I mean, what is it that you live by, and what your thoughts on money? Period.
Well, my philosophy with my clients, there's three things. That first of all, we need to focus on what we can control. Um, I have clients come to me and maybe they hadn't quite planned, early enough. I said, you don't worry about that. We start from where you are today and you focus on what you can control. There's so many things that we can't control, Tilde,
Yeah.
right? We can't control the market, can't control the economy. Maybe you do have some control of maybe who's in the White House or not, but there's so many things we can't control. But what we can control is the quality of the investments that are in your portfolio, right? We can control that the portfolio is well diversified because you can never be too diversified. And statistics show that 90% of the performance comes from your asset allocation versus the individual investments that are in your portfolio. And then lastly, that you have a long-term perspective. So if you've gone through the process, the planning process, you create it, you understand, your values, you understand, we have set goals that are in line with your values, create a strategy and a portfolio designed to get you to where you want to be long term, then you don't worry about that day to day noise.
Right.
Because there's always something, right, that is going to affect the market, the economy or whatever. But as long as you have that long term perspective, you don't worry about it. Oh, okay, I know that's happening today. That's all right.
Yeah.
My time horizon is 15 years down the road, so I'm not worrying about that day to day noise. So
Right.
that's kind of how, my philosophy with clients.
So, how can people get a hold of you? I mean, uh, you know, tell them the best way to get in contact with you if they'd like to talk to you a little bit further about their own financial circumstances.
Well, sure. I do have my website, which is www.pamelaplick.com. Where they could actually get more information about me. I have an e-publication that I created, 10 Smart Financial Steps for Savvy Women. If they'd like to download that, they can do that at the website. And also send me a message if they'd like to contact me directly, or my telephone number is on the website as well. But my telephone number is 760-200-8611. And I'm happy to talk with women who are wanting to get their finances in order. They're goal oriented and they want to get things in order. And then I also mentioned my blog. So if that's something that they might be interested in as a way of learning, they can also sign up for my blog on my website as well.
Okay, and what
So
was the website again?
it's www.pamelaplick.com.
Okay, because I think Dave will be putting that up on the Facebook comment in the Facebook comments so that people can click through right now. And if you do get in touch with Pamela, please let her know that you found out about her, you heard her on webinars, and are interested in learning more. And maybe she'll be extra nice to you when you talk to her. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you, Pamela, that you feel like you need to share, or that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover?
Um, the one thing that I do want to share, the biggest mistake that I see women making is procrastination,
Mm.
procrastinating on financial decisions. And so that's like the one of the biggest obstacle to achieving their long-term financial goals. And we have a tendency to put off making decisions due to lack of confidence, and some of the things that we've talked about earlier can help them
Yeah.
build that confidence. But the confidence usually is due to lack of fear. So making sure, it's easily overcome by educating yourself, which we talked about earlier, and so that you can have the financial life that you deserve. So don't procrastinate.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we procrastinate because we're avoiding reality.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we don't want to look at the balance, you know, or we don't want to look at the credit card balance or anything like that. We don't want to address reality. And so I totally agree with you. I've been there, done that. And it hurts to finally to finally stop and stop procrastinating and actually address some of the things that need to be addressed. But in the end, I mean, you feel so much more lighter and freer once you get those things done, you know?
Right. And more confident,
Yeah.
you know. And I think also when you think about it, once you face it, it's really not as bad as you thought.
Yeah.
You know, and if you need assistance, you need some help, or then reach out to a financial professional to help you guide you through the process.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Pamela. Really appreciate you, agreeing to be interviewed and providing some valuable information to women via our Facebook Live interviews with Tuesdays with Tilde. And everybody, I just thank you for joining us today. If you like the content, please don't keep us a secret. Share it with your friends and follow us on our YouTube channel, on Twitter, and you can like us here on Facebook as well. So thanks for joining us today.